it's not necessarily my favorite episode, but it's my favorite story from the Ninja episodes. We got this call. You know, we aired that first Ninja special, and people were like, no, you guys are idiots. We saw a guy catch arrows on TV. He caught arrows on the Ripley's Believe It or Not. And then this guy emailed one of our producers, and he said, you know, I'm a ninja. Which a friend of mine points out is like saying, I'm a Minuteman. It's like, the lineage of Minutemen pretty much is long died out, as it is with ninjas. But this guy's like, oh, I have several world records in catching stuff. And he does. He has like 8 world records in catching shit. So we had him out, and we've run into this problem a few times on the show. We hire experts, and whenever you hire an expert, you basically are saying, we've gone to the best, and here's the example of the best in order to test this story. And while that seems like a terrific model for doing something, it's often hard to know that you have the best. It's very arbitrary delineation, and it turns out holding 8 world records and catching stuff doesn't necessarily qualify you to be the best at catching arrows. So we ended up having to do a lot of dancing in this episode to tell the story we wanted to tell. And I still stand by our results, but okay, recently we actually did have a guest on the show, and I mentioned this a little bit, but publicly this is an exciting announcement. Seth Rogen is a huge fan of Mythbusters, it turns out. Yeah, and Michelle Gondry is too. Michelle Gondry's directed the new Green Hornet film that Seth is starring in and producing. And so they contacted us a few months ago and said, do you guys want access to our special effects reel? You want to bust some myths from our movie on the show? And we're like, totally! So Seth came out, and we filmed with him for a week, and we blew some big things up. I mean, really like on par with Cement Truck. Yeah. And and Seth is great. Seth is he's probably the best guest we've ever had on the show. He really adds things. But there is this very funny occurrence. Jamie sometimes, if you can believe this, gets a little belligerent. And we're backstage, we're in the blueprint room, and we're filming an opening with Seth. And we're doing this description, and I'm using coffee beans in place of dirt because it's kind of funny, and the coffee beans look great. And we have to, end with a joke. So Alice, my director, says, Jamie, what have you got for a joke? And Jamie's like, I got something. So we go and do the joke, and Jamie's joke is, does anyone want some coffee? And it kind of dies. And Alice goes, yeah, Jamie, that doesn't work. She's Australian. And Jamie says, I like it. And Seth, trying to, fit in, goes, I think it's good. And I go, hey, Jamie, I'm in with Alice, I don't know if it works. So Jamie goes, all right, so go again. And he goes, does anyone want some coffee? There's a pause, and Alice is like, Jamie, I'd like something else. And he's like, well, I like that one. And she goes, right, well, we've got that one. Why don't you give me another? And at that point, Seth goes, yeah, man, I get that direction all the time. He says, pretty much the most common thing, because every take he does to camera is totally different. He's an improviser, he's a stand-up comedian, he's fantastic. I mean, he gave us so much stuff to work with. But yeah, it was a nice little commiseration between Seth and Jamie.